So many people are using telemetry analysis inefficiently. Unless you're already driving to a high level, you want to use telemetry to identify general technique issues, rather than track-specific details that aren't going to help whenever you come up to a new track. If you're new here, I'm Tom, a professional iRacing coach, and I've spent hundreds of hours looking at the telemetry of my students to work out what they need to do to improve. So, with that in mind, I want to show you how to use telemetry to identify whether braking is a source of inconsistency for you. So what I've done, I've loaded up Garage 61 and I've pulled 5 back-to-back laps of a driver that I coached recently before we started talking about braking consistency. And there's two things that lead into braking inconsistently. And the first one is braking at a different point, lap after lap for the same corner. So we're looking at turn 3 of Road America. This is going to be most evident into heavy braking zones where there's a lot of braking to do, and if you're therefore inconsistent in the braking, is going to be exaggerated even more than into the shorter braking zones. And the first mistake is having a braking point that's not consistent lap after lap. And there's a bunch of reasons why this could happen, and that isn't really the aim of the video to explain why it's happening. But the first step to improving is knowing what you're doing wrong. Once you know what you're doing wrong, you can seek out videos or resources to work out how to fix that. All we want to do now is identify what's going wrong. So if we look at this turn 3, you can see that over these 5 laps, and these are all consecutive laps, the difference in when this driver starts braking is from as early as 2,075 meters up to as late as 2,110 meters. So 30-meter difference in braking for the same corner always means you're going to arrive into the corner with a different amount of entry speed. 30 meters is a lot when it comes to braking points, and you can see here, after we've started braking in all of the laps, the difference in speed we're carrying at this point is huge. So we're going from as low as 225 kilometers up to as high as 244 kilometers. That doesn't sound like a huge difference, but 19 kilometers an hour of speed difference at the start of the braking is going to carry all the way through to the braking zone. It's going to mean that there's going to be some laps where you overslow for the corner, some laps where you're carrying too much speed. It's going to make it so much harder to navigate that corner in the same way lap after lap, because you're not going to be carrying consistent entry speed. The second thing that can be contributing to braking inconsistency is how much pressure you're applying when you're actually braking. And again, this student here, if we pick a random point in the straight line braking, you can see that their brake pressure varies all the way from 40% right up to 69%. So a 29% difference in how hard they're hitting the brakes. Again, this is going to cause the same thing. Massive inconsistency on entry speed, which is going to make it so much harder to navigate the corner in the same way. This also speaks to why students struggle so much with trail braking. If they first try to learn trail braking, as everyone does, they hear trail braking, they think it's the answer to everything. And it does give you a lot more speed, but if you don't get the fundamentals right first, it's going to be extremely difficult. So if your straight line braking looks like this, and you incorrectly think that the thing to work on is trail braking, then what's going to happen? You're going to get into the corner here, where you're about to start turning in, about to start trail braking, and trail braking needs to be precise anyway. And so if you're coming into the corner with 14 kilometers an hour different speed from the slowest to the latest, there's already too much imprecision in how fast you're coming into the corner. You're never going to be able to be consistently precise with the trail braking, because you're already not consistently precise with the straight line braking. So the question is, how precise do we need to be with our braking points and with our straight line braking in order to have consistent entry speed? And there's 2 rules that we can give here that's going to make it much easier for you to work out whether your braking is a source of inconsistency, or whether there's some other reason why you're being inconsistent. And when it comes to braking references or braking points, when we start the braking, the rule I like to use is that, assuming the laps are set in identical conditions and consecutive laps, we don't want more than about a 10-meter variance in where we start our braking. And so this is a lap of mine. We're looking at turn 1 of Zandvoort, and this is 5 laps of mine, 4 laps of mine, and the difference in where I start braking, if we look at turn 1 here, the first application of the brakes in the earliest laps is 191 meters, and then the latest application of the brakes is at 198 meters. So well within that 10-meter variance window. That means that the braking point is not going to be really a source of inconsistency for me. And then when it comes to brake pressure, when we're in the straight line, so you see my brake pressure varies a lot once I start turning into the corner. So this is all trail braking related, so that's fine. We can have some variance in the trail braking in response to how the car's behaving. You see, round about here, I'm starting to turn into the corner, so there's already variance. But all the time I'm braking in a straight line. The other rule of thumb we want is to have only a 10% variance in your overall brake pressure as well. So if we pick a random point in the straight line braking, say here, the difference in my brake pressure from my lowest brake pressure is 82%, highest is 90%, so an 8% difference in brake pressure, and that's consistent pretty much throughout the whole straight line braking. There's never more than about 10% difference in brake pressure, and there's a lot that goes into getting this to work, and that could spend an hour talking about that, setting up your pedals correctly, how to keep the braking trace straight in a straight line. A lot of details go into it, but you want to know for yourself whether this is a source of inconsistency for you, and these are the two ways to work it out. Over 4 or 5 laps, are you braking with a braking point variance of more than 10 meters, in which case you need to work out how to be more precise with your braking references, and is there more than 10% variance in your straight line braking? If there is, you need to work out how to be more consistent with the braking. If you want to know how to build up your braking step by step to reach that precise level of consistency we've talked about, it's something I cover in detail in my online course, iRacing Fundamentals. The course doesn't just focus on theory, but has a bunch of practical training drills that show you how to implement the theory you've learnt into your own driving. The course is also constantly improving. At the moment I'm working through adding training drill videos to all 24 training drills in the course, and these are 5 to 10 minute videos explaining exactly how to do the training drills that are covered in the course, and show you how to do the drill correctly, how you could be doing the drill wrong, and when to move on.